Yeah, you and I just found out that we were born the same year.
Hmm.
You're probably looking at me being like, bloody hell, am I that old? But yes, you are. Yeah, 83 babies.
I don't know if you feel this. I feel my aging, and it's a strange thing. I gave a talk to law students 2 nights ago, and I was referencing movies. All 3 of the movies I referenced, no one in the room had seen them or heard of them.
Like what? What were the movies?
Contact.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Contact is not, it's not the most popular movie, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's a little nerdy maybe, but it's a great movie. You know,
is,
1990s, Matthew McConaughey.
Yep.
No one had heard of this movie, and I thought...
Jodie Foster?
Jodie Foster, yeah. Great book as well, Carl Sagan. And no one had heard of it.
Okay.
I thought, oh man, I'm getting old. I'm that old guy now, talking about the movies back in his day.
But you said you referenced 3.
Trying to remember the
So
other.
like 3 strikes.
Yeah, I won't be able to remember them all.
I remember realizing that people hadn't heard of Braveheart.
Oh,
Because Braveheart was the movie that you would talk about at men's conferences and men's talks.
right.
And then there came a point where people were like, I don't know.
I know, it's strange. Yeah, in my 40s now, and the older I get, the faster the years go by. And then, as we've been talking about, the world keeps changing. So it's fascinating to look out and say, okay, how do I spend my life now trying to help? And but yeah, it's a strange. So it feels like a different world from the 1990s.
I wonder if it's like the stage we're in right now, because there's kind of like this uptick. Huh? You're born, you go to school, you have these aspirations, you get married, you get a career, you can take care of them. And that's usually when the midlife crisis happens, because it's like, where's the adventure? Everything's too stable. I want to upset everything just so I can do something wild. But I wonder if this experience that we're going through of like kind of feeling like the world is I feel like the world's getting away from me and I don't understand it anymore. But I wonder if is that what every generation felt? I know there's always different particulars. Or do you think maybe this is very new given how fast technology is advancing?
Yeah. I'll be curious for your thoughts about this. I just asked someone, and I ask people this a lot, who are older than I am, have you ever seen a time quite like right now? And the last person I asked that question to is a retired minister. He's probably in his 70s. And he said he's never seen a time like now. So,
in what sense? What does he mean?
I think he was referring, we were just talking generally about the culture and polarization, the increase of extremism, the loss of a sense of stability. It's actually hard for me to communicate exactly what it is. It's kind of a feeling. You can look at little particulars, but then there's this general sense. I feel it through the comments I get on my channel a lot, just many young men who feel a bit listless, feel a bit lost, feel a bit unmoored, and they're just trying to find something stable. Mm-hmm. And everything feels like it's in flux. Mm-hmm. And it didn't feel like that when I was growing up. But that's the same question I have then as well. Does everyone feel this at a certain point in their life? But as I listen to others of different ages, it does feel like some things are really unique right now.
So even the young people are experiencing that flux like you might be. It's not that because of your age and stage of life, you're experiencing something that they're not. You get the sense that people of different generations are feeling the same thing.
That's my sense, and it's just my view from the cheap seats, I guess. I asked my dad about this a lot. My dad just turned 75, and he talks about the late 60s as a time where there was a lot of tumult, assassinations, great anxiety. But I think I recall him saying that right now feels more intense than that, and it honestly concerns me in the trajectory of it. It doesn't seem like what's generating the anxiety right now is something that is short-lived. So far as I can tell, it's technological changes, how communication and information are shared. And it seems like unless we make changes, that won't necessarily automatically get better on its own. So I'm concerned. I have 5 young kids. I think about what will it be like for them as teenagers? It's just interesting to think about. And then you say, okay, what can we do about it?
Well, even from a psychological point of view, it seems to make sense that faith can really ground you. So if your children love Jesus Christ and they read the scriptures and they worship him, they surrender their life to him, they trust in his providence, then at least that is an anchor into something ontologically stable while the world shifts. I think there's that old Carthusian motto that said the cross the cross stands while the world turns, or the cross remains still while the world turns. But I can't imagine just drifting through modernity without an anchor in anything stable right now. It seems like you just get tossed to and fro from one ideology to the next. You know, like I feel like I've lived long enough that I've experienced when things have been in vogue, and in the middle of it, it feels like this is going to be the thing forever. So I remember, kind of being agnostic and into sort of different Eastern spiritualities in my teens. That felt like the new cool thing. That was very loud. I think there was a while, when atheism just felt like, back in 2000 and what, 7, 8, 9, 12, around that time, the new atheist thing, that just felt like this is the new thing that's not going away. And there were all those memes about idiot Christians and evolution doing away with them. And then I remember feeling a time where I'm like, Catholicism is like so attractive. And now I feel, at least from my cheap seats, that like orthodoxy is like the new thing. I don't know if you see that from your Protestant world, but it's like this has got great curb appeal, because you've got the tradition without the papacy and without some of the Catholic particulars. It's weird to live long enough to realize, okay, I can't be just jumping about to whatever is in vogue, because there's a pull of what's in vogue. I don't know if you've experienced it. I feel like being drawn into different orbits.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no. And that all tracks with me. And the one sort of hope that I have is what I want to give my life to, and that's the re-Christianization of our culture. Whatever I can do to spend myself, it's actually joyful and freeing to think, okay, we face these strange times. So you give yourself to it and you say, use me, God, however you can to help. If I can do anything. And the one thing that is happy is to think, it seems like in that instability, there are people who are asking deeper questions. And I do think there's an open door for young men, for example, who are looking for something stable. Just this comes off of your first point of, if you don't have a sense of groundedness in your faith, what do you really have? And I think we feel that more right now. I sense that as I talk to people, this sense of there's a real hunger for roots, a real hunger for something of substance that I can really base my life on. And of course, I think that gives us an opportunity to tell people of Christ. So, I suppose there's a positive side in that way of you might have an open door to, but it's a challenging question of how do we sort of sow seeds that will slow down secularism and bear fruit over the long haul. And it's also challenging. I mean, doing evangelism right now, that also feels different than the 1990s. You could assume some Christian categories to some extent in many conversations a few decades ago. It seems like today, even the basic, you might think of sharing the gospel with someone sometimes as just connecting dots. This person might already have a sense of God. They might already have a sense of guilt and needing forgiveness. But it's harder and so you're connecting the dots. You're helping them see what that means for having faith in Christ. It's harder if the dots aren't there. And you have to start further back and begin at the very base of just starting with the idea of God, the idea of accountability, the idea of I'm not self-made, and the deepest thing and the greatest thing isn't to be authentic to myself. We kind of need to start way back at that point, it feels like, with most people today. I go back and forth between sort of being afraid of the challenge, but then being excited about it, because it is daunting. I mean, as a father, I think it's okay to admit we can feel anxiety ourselves about where the world is at. But I try not to, I also don't want to live in fear. So then you say, okay, you think of church history and what Christians have faced in other times. And then we would feel pretty pathetic if we felt sorry for ourselves just because we happen to be living in a time where Christianity's waning a bit. And you see these, one of the times I've studied is Christianity going into Scandinavia. And the Vikings, they were not nice people. And the particular kinds of suffering and persecution, and I can't talk about it too long because I get emotional whenever I talk about persecution. Something about it strikes me. But the particular kinds of torture that these Christian missionaries in like the 9th century, 10th century faced when they went into that culture, it's very inspiring. And it really puts things in perspective. So if we ever start feeling sorry for ourselves, a little bit of church history can help us.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.